Welcome to the Remembering Akron podcast. I'm your host, Derek Maxfield, and today my guest is Walter Rosonowski. Welcome, Walter.
Thank you. Good, glad to be here.
So let's start off by telling me, where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in Toledo, Ohio in 1940. My dad died 10 years later, and we moved out to Grand Rapids, a small country town very much like Akron, and lived there until I went into the service.
So 1940, that was just at the edge of the beginning of World War II. Tell me how that affected your family growing up.
My two uncles were killed in the war. My one uncle was a medic and was given a Silver Star for his action in the field. My other uncle, who was quite a bit older, family man, died on the first day of the Battle of the Bulge.
Do you have any memories as a child of World War II?
Not really. I have a memory of my uncle, my younger uncle, standing in front of a big mirror that was in my grandmother's house. And I don't know why I remember it, but I do remember that.
In uniform?
In uniform.
Do you remember your parents talking about the war?
No, not really. It was just a way of life.
Uh-huh. Do you remember anything about Franklin Roosevelt?
Only that he was the president.
Did you ever
I remember I was a child.
Yeah. You ever remember hearing one of his fireside chats?
No, sorry,
No.
I can't help you.
Yeah, still kind of young. So what were your parents' names?
Marion Rosonowski and Dorothy Rosonowski, Dickus, family name.
I see. And what was their background?
My father was born in Brooklyn shortly after my grandparents migrated from Poland.
Oh.
My mother, actually, an interesting story. My mother is a long-time American, going back to the 1600s. And I found out through going through Ancestry.com that the reason my family probably came here is it was a penal colony.
Really? That's
Yeah, we
true.
talk about Australians' penal colony, but the Americans were the first one.
That's true. That's true. Both in New England and in the Middle States.
Yeah.
Interesting. So was Polish spoken in your family at all?
My grandparents never really spoke English well. They were hard to understand. My cousins who lived next door to them speak Polish. My dad said we're Americans. We don't speak Polish in the house, so
I see.
I have no language.
That's interesting. So where did you go to school?
I went to Harvard.
Did you?
No.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to, let me finish this,
Okay.
Harvard.
All right.
Harvard is an elementary school where I went to elementary school.
I see that. Okay.
And like I said, so anybody asks, sure, I graduated from Harvard.
That works.
I went to Grand Rapids local school. It's now been consolidated into all the little villages around. Go to a school called Otsego. My graduating class was the largest class to ever graduate from Grand Rapids. There was 28 of us.
28. So when you graduated high school, did you have a plan for your future?
Absolutely not. Getting out of school was my biggest plan.
Did you go into the service immediately?
No, I went to school for a year and found out I wasn't a good student,
I see.
and then I went into the service from there.
What branch of the service did you go into?
I was in the Navy. Spent 4 years in the Navy. Came out and went. Actually, the Navy paid for my school, so they
right.
they helped me a lot in life.
And what year did you enroll or enlist?
1959.
1959. So Vietnam was just at the kind of edge of its beginning in 1959.
Yeah.
You must have lived through Kennedy's assassination. What do you remember about that?
I was actually at work, and the rumor was going around the factory that he'd been shot. Not that he was dead, but that he'd been shot. And I didn't actually get the news until I got off work at 5 o'clock.
This was something that really affected people.
Absolutely. Yes.
A lot of people that I talk to can tell you exactly where they were and exactly what they were doing when they found out that news.
I was coming home. I heard the rumors. I actually heard the news itself on the car radio on the way home from work. Mm-hmm. Yes, and I do remember it distinctly.
So when you were in the Navy, you experienced the Cold War.
Yes.
And you have some memories from that time.
I do. I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to be part of the Cuban Missile Crisis. My squadron got moved to Key West, Florida, and we were flying 12 hours on, 12 hours off over Cuba for a month, really almost 6 weeks by the time we got done, although the crisis itself really only lasted for 2 weeks.
Did you and your men have a good idea of what was happening?
Yes. I was married with a small baby at the time living off base, and Kennedy gave the speech to the people that there was missiles in Cuba and he wasn't going to allow it. And we knew then that there was trouble abroad. And within an hour after that speech, the Shore Patrol showed up at my door and said, "Pack a sea bag, you're going to Cuba." They did. It took me about 15 minutes to pack a bag. I kissed my wife goodbye and got in the car with the Shore Patrol and was gone on my way. To continue that, they took us back to the flight line where we were, a whole bunch of us, probably a couple hundred people, sat around for the rest of the night trying to figure out what was going on, and the rumor mill, of course, was giving us all kinds of different things. Mm-hmm. About daylight, they called our squadron, and the captain of the squadron told us where we were going, that we were, in fact, going to Cuba, and we got in a plane and left.
And what was your job once you got to Cuba?
I was an airborne radar operator. Flew Willie Fudd, WF-2 airborne early warning for the fleet, and we were flying over Cuba.
So you were just continuously kind of going in a circle around Cuba, keeping an eye on the radar.
Yeah, and they were keeping an eye on us. I remember distinctly that the first time we went out, we sat at a green screen watching what was going on around us, and you could pick up the gun control radar as backfeed on our stations. They gave us 38 revolvers to fly with, and we all four of us thought that was kind of strange, that we have artillery and us with 38s.
And what were you supposed to do with those?
That's what we said. I hope they have at least tracer bullets in this thing so that it has some value.
Uh-huh. So while you're up in the air, keeping an eye on the radar, were the guys around you speculating on what might happen here?
No, honestly, it was a scary time. We were all worried about what was going to happen to our country, mm-hmm. But nobody questioned where we were going. Wherever the presidents wanted us to go is where we were going.
Mm-hmm. And in the end, we won that fight.
We did.
That brinkmanship.
Yeah, brinkmanship is a good way to put it. We were on the edge. We all felt that this could be the end of the world.
That's scary stuff.
Yeah.
Were you able to keep in touch at all with your wife during that time?
No, we were not allowed to tell anything about where we were.
So you were completely cut off from home.
Completely. You got to also remember it's a different time that our access to the computer and the internet was way beyond our time frame.
Right. So when you were off duty, were you back at a base?
No, it's an interesting question. On our way down there, we found out that we were not going to go to Key West where we thought we were going to be stationed because it was full. There wasn't any room for us. So we ended up spending a couple days at McCoy Air Force Base in Central Florida and flying out of there over Cuba. After that, when we went back, we finally did get to Key West where we were supposed to be stationed. There was no barracks for flight crew. So we ended up staying in a hotel or motel off base.
Interesting. So at the end of that 6 weeks or so, you were able to go back home.
Yes. A couple of interesting stories I might share with you is it was all over with. It was November 26th, I believe, and all the squadrons were getting ready to go back home. And President Kennedy came down and inspected the troops, and that was quite a thrill. More than that, Willie Flood was a big radar plane, had antennas sticking out of it all over the place. And he stopped his limousine and called our captain over, says, "What is that thing you're flying?" And he responded with, it was an airborne radar unit. And that was quite a cool experience. And I didn't actually talk to him, but I was within 20 feet of him.
My goodness.
Yeah, cool.
How did you think the president handled that crisis?
We won.
Okay, that tells the story. All right. So how long were you in the service after this crisis?
Actually, I was getting ready to get out. My 4 years was up. We were actually concerned that, and a lot of guys, it did happen. They were supposed to be shipped out and got held over. But I got back in time. That I actually got out in March, so I was back home quite a while.
All right. And what was your next career after the Navy?
Thanks to the Veterans Program, I was able to go to college.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Bowling Green University in Ohio.
Good school.
Good school.
And what did you major in?
Well, I majored in business, but I was really majoring in computer science, but they didn't have a curriculum for that at the time. I took classes at the local community college for programming and systems design.
So you went into computers as a career thereafter? I
did. I spent 6-7 years as a programmer, moved on to design, systems design, and eventually into consulting, and finally into sales.
So when you first started your career in computers, what year was that?
1968.
1968. And computers back then were a lot bigger than they are today.
By far.
Tell me about one of those early computers you worked on.
Well, my first computer was a IBM 36040, and the story behind that is 36040 was a huge machine. Before that, they were 16K machines. Took as much space. There was a lot of board wiring with those, as well as programming for those. So that when the 360 came out, there wasn't many of those around. We were in Bowling Green, which is near Toledo, Ohio, and the closest one was in Detroit. So we would go twice a week for an overnight where we would do all our testing because we didn't have a machine to test on. That was during the race riots in Watts, and we had to be escorted anytime we left the building because it was a dangerous place to be.
My goodness, that must have put you on edge a little bit.
I was a kid.
So the programming that you were doing at the time, what was that like?
Well, it started off when we were working with assembler language, which is 16K language. Like I said, partly programming, partly using boards. And we were converting from that to an IBM 360, which was using PL1, which is Programming Language 1. It was used for a long time until we actually got into the next phase of programming.
So you were a programmer for about 10 years, you said.
Yes, about that.
Why did you change to something new?
Money.
I see.
I was offered a job as a system designer, which was a big step up from financially.
And was that still in Bowling Green?
No, by this time I was working for Owens Corning.
Owens Corning?
Yeah.
And so you had to move?
I did have to move. I moved from Bowling Green. Actually, I was living in Grand Rapids. And we went to Newark, Ohio, N-E-R-K. It's actually Newark, like New Jersey.
Okay.
But everybody there calls it Newark.
Okay. How long of a distance is that between those places?
Oh, it's not far.
No.
A couple 100 miles.
All right. So you started your new career in systems design. What were you designing?
My first job was putting in a new inventory system for the manufacturing plant, and I did some other work in accounting and both receivables and payables.
All right. And how long did you do that?
Oh, I did that for a long time, probably 15 years.
15 years?
Yeah.
All for Owens Corning?
No, I went to work for Service Systems, which is here in Buffalo. That's how I ended up in Buffalo.
I see. All right. What did you think of the move from Ohio out to Buffalo, New York?
Better question be what my wife think of that.
All right.
We were alone. By this time, we had 3 kids. And kids, this is home for them, but it took us a while to not be near family.
Mm-hmm. Well, you made the adjustment ultimately.
Ultimately.
So from that place in Buffalo, you moved into sales?
I actually went to work for a company, Strip It, here in Akron. Strip It Hudai.
Okay.
They made hole punching machines.
I see.
And Hudai bought a company in Chicago and asked me to go up there as the MIS director for them, IT director in today's vernacular. So we moved to Chicago. I moved to Chicago. My wife stayed here.
Oh, that must have been difficult.
Things were going poorly.
How long did your stay in Chicago last?
Actually, a couple of years.
I see.
I was very unhappy with the traffic. Traffic was a 2-hour trip in, 2-hour trip back out. So I went to my boss one day and said, I'm leaving Chicago with you or without you. And they found actually 2 jobs, one essentially in Cleveland, Ohio, and the other in Atlanta, Georgia. And I had my choice of either one of them. And so we went to visit both of them, and we went to Atlanta. We were from Chicago, you remember, in early spring, where it's still snowing and blowing in Chicago, to the summer climate with flowers blooming, vegetables and ready to go, and cheap housing. And then we went to Cleveland, and not much different than Chicago, but our family was closer, so we ended up moving to Cleveland. Spent almost 30 years in Cleveland.
So how did you arrive in Akron, New York?
When we retired, we have kids that live in Amherst and Clarence, so it was an easy decision.
I see. All right. Tell me about your life in Akron.
We've been very active in the community, particularly at the community center, where for the last 5 years I've been the director of the community center, Wright Community Center.
And you've been very active in the Methodist church here as well.
That's correct as well. Also help with the Chamber of Commerce.
How would you characterize this community if somebody said to you, why should I move to Akron, New York?
Well, it's truly a Rockwell community. Last night we went to the band concert, a 40-person band in the gazebo in the Village Park. That really just kind of tells you sort of things that happen here every day, every week.
So you like the community spirit here?
Very much so.
Very good. Now tell me one last difficult question. So let's think 3 generations from now, and your grandchildren are telling their children about you. How would you want to be remembered?
That's a hard question. You're right. I think that I tried to be the best man I could be under the circumstances that we lived.
That's a good answer. Thank you for joining us, Walt. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening in, and remember to tune in to the next episode of Remembering Akron.